out there. What says the Pope concerning drug cartels?
Well, it's very interesting because he just blasted them. He just jumped all over this narcotics trafficking and these drug cartels, Mexican drug cartels. He calls them the scourge of drug trafficking, and that seems to favor violence and sows the seeds of suffering and death. And then he takes a real shot at these do-gooder types who think that the solution to everything is to legalize drugs. He says that proponents of legalization who believe that scrapping drug laws would dry up the demand for traffickers and reduce violence are basically just kind of full of it. And he said
He didn't use that term. The Pope didn't say.
no, he's a little
more
calm
Yeah.
than me.
speaking.
Eloquent is
Yes.
probably
Classy.
well. You're doing your little insults.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, I've been punked by better
No,
people.
no,
than
it's okay
you.
to paraphrase. It's just you're dealing with the Pope. I just thought we'd just make clarify
Right,
that, so I don't
right,
complain.
right.
Okay.
He says a reduction in the spread and influence of drug addiction will not be achieved by the liberalization of drug laws. And he implores organized criminals, that's a nice word, implores,
Yeah.
to stop wrecking people's lives, which is what it is. Now, but there's also the demand side, and that's these people are providing the product for these addicts, and that's a big deal.
Well, and the system has given up on the demand side. Let's face it, they don't incarcerate people who are quote-unquote users, and now they are as addicts. What they're trying to do now is go after the supply side and make that legal too. So I mean that's the game that's being played with, and it's a dangerous game when you're dealing with drugs.
Well, it's a losing game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a real losing game. So the Pope's on our side. I like to say.
Yes.
He'd probably think, oh no, not
I don't want to go quite
Ray
that far.
the DA, right? Yeah. So
Probably wouldn't like a death penalty stance. Probably not. I'm just saying, just to throw one up.
yeah, well, maybe not. Then we got Detroit. The debacle called Detroit. Man, that is really scary.
Yeah, I don't think people understand unless you're around it exactly how bad it is there. Detroit had 1.9 million residents, one of the country's largest cities, just a few years ago. Now it's down to what, about right under 1 million people. People have just fled that city in droves. Organized crime is there.
Gangs, all kind of gangs.
Gangs. It's just not even the same city, and it's a very dangerous place. It's one of the most dangerous places on earth, right?
Well, let me tell you what, I read, and I read everything whatever I get, I start reading. Here's what it says. The population steadily shrank from 1.9 million to 700,000 population. Businesses fled, the city's tax base shriveled, and the officials did nothing but deny and avoid. The remaining, listen to this now, the remaining residents live in a place where in a life or death emergency, they may as well call a hearse instead of an ambulance.
Yeah, there are 500 police officers to police that city of 700,000 people. Lexington has about that many police. I don't know what the census is now, but that city, Detroit, that they're dealing with 500 police officers left to police that city.
And I guarantee you they're bailing fast as they can.
They are. They literally are.
It says here that 90% of murders go unsolved.
It's up to
90%. Well, that's because they don't have anybody to investigate. Furthermore, why would they? Why would you get it? People won't testify because next thing you know, they're going to get shot. And if you're paying attention to what's going on in Louisville, I mean, guess what? Witnesses that are getting ready to testify in drug cases are being assassinated. I mean, it's a big deal. And of course, our the people that run the criminal justice system in Kentucky have made this wise decision to close the Marion County Correctional Facility, which is a privately run thing. There's 900 people that either going to get out or go to county jails or wherever they're going to go, but the likelihood is most of them will end up being released, and they're taking great pride in all of this. There was a story written by the warden of the Marion County facility that says, guess what? We're doing better with drug treatment and better in educating these people than any place else in Kentucky, any correctional facility in Kentucky. And they close us. That's a little short-sighted, they say. Now, that leads me back to this thing that you've said, that if you had a child that was addicted, you would rather have them in custody and getting some kind of treatment, because in custody, the chances of them continuing to get dope is reduced dramatically.
Or getting raped, or
Yeah.
being murdered, killed, all the things that we see that go along with people who are addicted to drugs, ODing, it's a rarity to have that happen in jail. It's very common for all those horrible things to happen on the street. So yeah, no, the jail's much safer. I stand by it today. I would say
So,
the jail.
bottom line is ever since you said that, I thought a lot about this idea of how do we best deal with drug treatment, because drug treatment is kind of a BS term that everybody throws out. But when you get probated and you have drug treatment, well, tell me what that means. That means you're drug tested once every month or once every 2 weeks.
And when you fail that drug test, and if it gets reported back to the judge, it really doesn't mean that much anymore. It just doesn't. I mean, I've dealt with it before. I've dealt with suspects who were drug addicts and had committed murders, okay, and failed drug tests while they're out on bail, and begged the judge to put them back in because it's a murderer. And time and time again, I think as many as 60 times I've had them in one case. 60 violations, and they've refused to put them back in. This is someone who's out on murder, told to stay out of it. I'm not a bail bondsman. So I get it. It's just a farce to say they're going to be tested.
I really have your idea of, since they're really not providing the drug treatment that these authors of this nasty House Bill 463 promised, they're just not doing what they said they were going to do. I'm convinced now, after thinking about your thought, that we need to really beef up serious drug treatment in the prisons.
Sure.
And that's where, because we got them, let's treat them there. And as opposed to do this scam that House Bill 463 does. Speaking of, one of the big proponents of this House Bill 463 is the Secretary of Kentucky's Justice Cabinet. His name is Michael Brown. Well, he screwed it up. He and his group over there, part of it is under the Justice Cabinet is corrections. They're supposed to collect DNA samples from these people that are convicted of felonies and so forth. Guess what? They just forgot to collect 6,300 DNA samples. Now, do you have any idea how many rapes have been solved by comparing the semen taken from a rape victim to this database of felons? A bunch.
Yeah.
And so to
Rapes and murders both. Ask Detective Schoonover, our cold case detective in Lexington. I mean, it's really not that unusual an occurrence for them to just get a DNA match on a crime that happened back in 1985, where at the time we didn't have the technology to match that DNA or even know what to do with it. Things have changed now. You've got a serial killer or a serial rapist. He commits another crime, you take his DNA and you put it in that database and you get a hit. That hit says, you know what, this person's DNA was also removed from a crime scene back in 1985. Well, suddenly you've got a suspect, then you build your case from there. That's how these cold cases are getting solved. The most violent and dangerous offenders, these serial rapists and killers, are being put away using this DNA evidence.
Well, this Michael Brown is so busy closing the Marion County Correction Facility and so busy pushing people out that he forgot to obey the law that says you shall collect these DNA samples. So my guess is he went to sleep at the wheel and was probably ought to pay attention to what the law requires him to do. That's sort of...
Don't mince words.
Well, come on. You know, the bottom line is they're so busy. This House Bill 463 is really screwing things up. It's changed the whole mentality of what we do. And it's a criminal-friendly law, and guess what? The criminals think they really are grateful to the legislature for what they've done. And one of the driving forces behind this is this Michael Brown, who closed this Marion County facility and just happened to miss 6,300 felons who were in custody that he should have gotten. And there you go.
They're going to be able to go back and get them? Or?
I don't know. Well, of course. Well, listen, if you're released and you're no longer on parole and you're no longer on probation, guess what? And they say, hey, Officer Don, would you come on in and give us a DNA sample? And you'd say,
I'm looking for maybe a warrant or something.
yeah.
I'm thinking.
No, I'm sorry. You're done with me. You told me I'm free to go, and I'm gone. So that's the end of that. So, where are we on time?
Well, we got about 3 minutes for you to make somebody else mad. What do you got there on your...
Well, have I made anybody angry today?
No!
I'll tell you,
Paul's fine. This Michael Brown guy, he's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah, I talked to, we talked about this stand your ground law just recently in the past, and now our local newspaper says we need to repeal this stand your ground law. You know, it's 5 people that make up the group that came up with this editorial. It's the head guy at the newspaper, the editorial page editor, 2 people that write editorials, and some cartoonist. And that's their opinion. That's opinion of at least 5 people there. And I hope that doesn't happen.
Of course, stand your ground law, people have the misconception that was used in the George Zimmerman case, and so that's what's driving this. But the defense did not even use that as their defense. It wasn't even an issue for them. Instead, they did the self-defense thing.